Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Shannon, and I promise this channel is not just about running and Dopey or Run Disney, but that's just kind of what's been happening lately. A lot of you guys have asked me for how I did train for Dopey, so I thought might as well just make the video so that you guys have the information and that you can go ahead and start your Dopey training. So a couple of things I want to talk about today is one, I'm going to talk about why I signed up for Dopey and a little bit in there about what my background in running is so that you kind of understand where my suggestions and recommendations are coming from. The second thing is how I trained for Dopey. So what I liked about the training, what I adapted from the training, you know, the training program I followed, all of that stuff. And then the third thing I'm going to talk about is just how I approach the races as well, to give you an idea of what you might want to do actually on race day. So that's the plan. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first, why did I sign up for Dopey? The Coles Notes version is that the pandemic was really hard on me physically and mentally, and I became very sedentary and I ate my emotions, which led to me not feeling great about myself in general, not necessarily because of gaining 50 pounds, but just not taking care of myself really is kind of what I didn't feel great about. And so I'd always been somebody who liked to challenge themselves and set goals and accomplish them. And so that's kind of why is I felt like I needed something to challenge myself to kind of get me out of that rut. Now, registration for Dopey last year opened at the end of July. So July 27th is when I registered for Dopey, which meant that it was actually kind of late because you actually needed to start training even before registration opened. And so I've been toying around with the idea about signing up for Dopey to kind of get me out of my rut, get me moving again, because running had always been something really good for me when I was struggling mentally. So when I went through my divorce, even though it was a very amicable divorce, it was fine. Running just helped me think or not think. So it helped me process thoughts that I was having, or it helped me kind of shut off my brain because I tend to overthink things and then not sleep and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of part of the reason why I chose Dopey to train for, to help me kind of get out of my rut. And I remember I went for my first run. I'd kind of been contemplating going, trying to do Dopey, even though I don't really love the marathon distance, just as a challenge to kind of get me moving again. And I remember thinking, I'm gonna start running. If I start running consistently again, when registration opens in July, then I'll sign up, because I've proved to myself that I can start to do something again. I can be consistent again. And then signing up for Dopey is kind of the carrot to kind of keep me going. And let's be honest, going to Florida in January from Canada is not a bad thing. I remember going for my first training run, and in the past, I've been a decent runner. So my best half marathon is an hour 31. I used to be able to do a half marathon hour 45 and feel pretty good, carry on with my day, nothing too crazy. Spoiler alert, that's not how my first run went. I remember thinking, I'm just gonna go out and do 5K and 10 and 1s. And I did not do 5K. I ended up doing 3K, which was very hard, and 10 and 1s, so running 10 minutes, walking 1 minute, definitely did not happen. I can't remember what interval I had to go down to, but I want to say that I might have ran like 1 or 2 minutes and had to walk for almost the same. So that's kind of where I started from, is not zero, but pretty close to, just getting off the couch. So that's kind of the background about why I signed up for Dopey and where I started from. Like I alluded to, I am not the marathon distance runner. My body has never loved it, but I have done about 4 or 5 marathons and like a dozen half marathons and a couple ultra marathons. I've done a lot of different fitness things, from bodybuilding to mountain biking to, you name it, I've probably tried it in some capacity. So that's kind of where my recommendations are coming from, is somebody who's been in the fitness industry for a long time, but was kind of starting over again, I'll say. Right on the Run Disney website, they actually have training programs that you can follow, and that's what I did. I'm gonna talk a little bit about what I liked about the Galloway method, and then what maybe I adapted for my own needs, because I didn't really love it. So the first thing, I actually love quite a bit about it, and I didn't I didn't change that much about this training program. So what I do love about it is that it's not tons of volume. They don't throw tons of volume at you and have you running 5 days a week and really progress your miles really quickly. Because in the past, what I've been used to is training programs that assume you want to run and that's all you want to do, that you don't also cycle or CrossFit or strength train or swim or whatever else that you want to do. And that's me. I like doing those other things, and I want running just to be a supplement to being a well-rounded athlete. They only have you running about 3 days a week, with the exception being the simulation weekends where you're doing kind of running Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or run walking, I should say. And those are the weekends, like, don't miss those weekends. I would say that those are going to be really foundational to your success and feeling good in your race day and past race day if you plan on staying at the parks and stuff like that. So that's one thing that I really like. The other thing that I like actually is how they have your progressive overload set up. What you're going to want to do if you want to get stronger, get faster, go longer, have greater endurance, is you want to follow a program that has progressive overload. So that means that your long runs are progressively going to get longer and longer and longer, and you just kind of sprinkle a little bit more in so that your body can adapt to it. Now, in the past, the programs that I've followed have been a progressive overload, kind of like where it goes up, you peak, you have a bit of a deload, so a couple of weeks where you give your body a little bit of rest, you peak again a couple of weeks before race day, you taper, and then you have race day. That's kind of what I followed in the past, and those are like 16, 18-week programs. And in the past, they've worked okay for me. So what I like about the Galloway method is that they do a progressive overload at the beginning as you start to build some of your distance on your long runs on the weekend. And then what they do is they give you a couple of weeks break as those distances really start to build for the marathon. So you'll build, and then you get a couple of weeks off, 1 week where you do about 9 or 10K, another week where you do about 12K or so, and then you go back a little bit higher than the weekend before. So let's say you did 19K that way, maybe the next week is, 22K kind of thing. And so what I like about that is the thing that I always found really challenging about marathon training is going out every Sunday and pounding the pavement for 3 to 4 to 5 hours. And so I found that this just gave me a bit more of a mental and physical break that worked really well for me. So I really personally liked that approach. Now, one of the things that I did adapt in the training program is that they have you going the full distance, and I only went to about 75-80% of the distance. So I adapted the training as the runs got longer on your long training run days, which is typically Saturday, Sunday. I took those down to only about 75-80% is where I peaked a couple of weeks before. And in fact, I actually didn't even get to my 80%, like my 32K that I was gonna do, because the weather has been terrible here. The sidewalks were terrible, and I just couldn't fathom doing that long on the treadmill. And it was fine. Another thing that I actually really like about the Galloway method is that they encourage you to run walk. And so I've always ran walk because the way that I learned to do endurance sports was through running room. And that's what you do, is that they basically take you up to doing 10 and 1s, and that's how you do your long runs. Kind of no matter your pace, is you run 10 minutes and you walk 1 minute. And so they do encourage you to do an interval-based program, especially if you're just starting out. And they do encourage you to play around with your run-walk intervals based on kind of where your fitness level is. And so I like that. And that's one of the things that I did actually on my Sunday long runs, is I really played around with the different intervals. I would try doing 5 and 1, 6 and 1s. I would, build up kind of my endurance. And then I would play around with, how does it feel if I did 1-to-1, like I did 1 minute running, 1 minute walking, or how do I feel when I do, 5 and 1s, or different things like that. So I really encourage you to play around in your training, practice your food, practice your running intervals, see how your body responds to different things. So those are the things that I really like about the training program. Now to talk about a couple of the things that I don't love about it. Right in the training program, it actually says that they don't recommend strength training, which I don't personally agree with, because I know for myself, as well as being in the fitness industry for a while, that a smart strength training program is going to help supplement you to not only be a better runner overall, but to help prevent injuries. Because let's be honest, a lot of runners struggle with issues with their calves, their glute med, shoulder and neck. And so I just think that those things are going to help you be a better runner overall. Editing Shannon here. So I just went back to the training program just to look to see exactly what it said. And so it doesn't say necessarily that they don't recommend to do strength training. Basically what they say is that it's fine to do cross training on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, but there's going to be little benefit to your running, but it'll help improve your overall fitness. So my guess is when they say cross training, they're meaning more cardiovascular fitness. And so I'm gonna agree and disagree. I do think that adding in cross training can actually improve your running. When I got faster, part of the reason I got faster was doing cycling, because it just increased my leg turnover. But anyways, aside from that, I do think that one of the things it could mention is that there would be benefits to adding strength training into your program, because one, I do believe it is going to improve you as a runner. Like I said, just for your overall ability to stay upright, stay in good running form, those sorts of things, as well as to kind of push off any potential injuries, as long as, again, it is a smart training program that you're following. Back to the video. So that's one thing that I would recommend, is that you do incorporate a couple of days of strength training. Again, just for those things that we know runners can struggle with. So, glutes is one thing, making sure that you're balanced in your glutes, balance quad and hamstrings, core, and of course shoulders, so that you can stay nice and strong and upright and feel really good crossing that finish line. Going forward, one of the things that you can kind of expect that I'm going to talk about is how I'm going to incorporate CrossFit and running together, because I do want to get back into CrossFit a little bit more regularly, as well as I do have my new goal to get a bit faster again at my half marathon distance. So look forward to that. The other thing that I think is important is considering doing either some speed or hill training. Now, it's funny because I have heard some rumblings in some of the forums about how hilly the race course is, and it's not hilly. It's not. There are, of course, the overpasses, yes, but no. If you are somebody that found it hilly, then I would recommend that in the middle of your training block, so for 2 months out of your training block, is one of your weekday runs, either go out and find a hilly route to run for that 45-minute time frame, or go and find a hill where you can go and do hill repeats on, so that you can feel stronger. And so if you can't run up the whole hill, maybe you run up a quarter of it. And then next week you try and run up a third, and then you try to run up half, and then full. Wherever you're at, you just want to think about that progressive overload. And if you can run up and down it, great. You spend the 45 minutes doing repeats, and maybe next week you try and add another repeat. So wherever you're at, you just need to think about that progressive overload. So if hills are a struggle for you, that's one thing I do feel that training program might be missing, is some hill work. And then of course speed work, if that's something that you want to get faster, because in order to run faster, you have to run faster. I know, it's crazy. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? If that is something that you're kind of working towards, is to be able to run a certain time frame, then you do need to kind of incorporate that into your training. But for people who just want to finish Dopey, it's a great training program. It really is. Those are just kind of the two things that I would adapt to it. Well, actually 3 things. So the first thing is incorporating strength training. Second thing is potentially thinking about doing some hill repeats or a hilly course, especially if you find that hills are really tough for you, is incorporate that into your training. Third thing is see how you feel. There were weeks that I didn't feel like doing my 45-minute run, so I did a 45-minute Peloton instead. And so I kind of mixed up my training based on kind of how I felt, and I think that's totally fine. The big thing is like I said before, don't miss those weekends where you do your long walk on Saturday and your long run Sunday. And then as you get closer, you also do some running on Thursday, Friday. I think that those are really important. And those are the things that really helped me to be able to finish the race and feel really good. Last thing I want to talk about is what I actually did on race day. So the 5K day I knew was just kind of like shake up the nerves a little bit, get up in the morning, go and enjoy it. And so I set my timer to do around 5 and 1s because I knew that 5 and 1s were kind of okay for me. They were fine. I knew that there was going to be kind of a lot of electricity in the air and excitement, and so that can carry you through. And I would say the 5K I probably ran a little bit faster than I probably should have. It was fine. It didn't kind of put me into the hole or anything for my other races, but just remember that you have a lot of miles ahead of you. So if anything, temper yourself during everything till you get to the marathon, because that really is probably the most challenging part of the weekend. So 5K, I did about 5 and 1s. I did some like 3 and 1s. I ran more than 5 minutes on some. I just kind of ran based on how I felt and what I saw. You know, if I wanted to pull over to take some photo video, I did that. So the 5K day was just a nice, easy day. I wasn't too concerned about it. 10K day, my friends that ran with me, so my sister and our friend Mallory, they were actually in a corral ahead of me, so I was chasing them the entire time because I really wanted to catch up with them, run for a while, and then cross the finish line together. And I actually didn't even catch up with them until I think about a mile. The last mile, I think, is when I finally saw them and caught up with them. So again, I did like 3 to 5 and 1s is kind of how I approached the 10K day, but I probably ran, like I said, a little bit faster just because I was trying to catch up with them. I thought I was going to catch up with them way sooner, but I ended up using a porta potty and waiting in line and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, different story. Actually, there's no story. It just took more time than I expected. So I ran that probably a little bit faster than I should have. Half marathon day, I set my watch to do 3 and 1s. And I ran 3 and 1s for about the first 12K, I think. So basically till about Magic Kingdom, just after Magic Kingdom. And then I walked for the next about 5K or so, which was really hard to do, but I wanted to make sure that I had plenty left in me for the marathon. And so even though I wanted to run, I held myself back. In hindsight, do I think I probably could have ran? I probably could have ran a bit more of that. I probably didn't need to walk as much of it. Initially, when I was going into the weekend, in the training program, it says to walk the full half marathon. And I just, 1, I didn't want to be on my feet that long. And 2, I didn't think that I would be able to keep a pace that I would not get swept. So that's kind of what I did, is I ran about 12K, walked about 5K, and then finished off run walks in the end. And it turned out really fine for me. I ended up doing the half in just over 3 hours, I think like 3:15, 3:20, something like that. Felt good, it was fine. Then on marathon day, I decided to do 30 and 30, which is something I hadn't really practiced. I had done 1 and 1s, but I wanted to try 30 and 30. And so that's what I did, is I did 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. There was definitely times where I did more than 30-30, because I kind of ran through some of them. And then there was times where I walked more because I was on a nutrition break. And that also applies in the half marathon day. There were times where I walked a little bit more because I was on a nutrition break, or I walked through the water stations. Honestly, unless you're racing, I don't think you need to run through the water stations. I've never ran through, even when I was doing an hour 31, I would still walk through the water station. Because let's be honest, it's sloshing all over the place. You know, you don't need to completely drown the volunteer that's handing you the water. I just don't think it's necessary. My own personal opinion, you can disagree with me, it's totally fine. But I would walk more sometimes, I would run more sometimes. But for the most part, I did stick to kind of those intervals. And I would say for the marathon, I was able to keep running for pretty much all of it. It was about mile 24, probably about mile 24, where I was kind of over it because I had been out there for so long. And so that's the only downside to doing that, is that you're going to be out there longer. The more transitions, the less time you're running, the longer you're going to be out there. But it doesn't matter because I finished. And that's what matters. So if you're somebody that's worried about it, again, practice it in your training program to see what happens. You're always going to be able to adrenaline's going to fuel you a bit no matter what in any of those races. Oh, the other thing that I did want to mention also is that a question that might come up is like, when did you do parks and things like that? So we flew on the Monday. Tuesday we did parks. Wednesday we did expo merchandise and parks. Thursday we did parks. Friday we did parks. Saturday I did nothing. I had a massage. I did some pool hot tub contrasts, even though the pool's not super cold. I did some of those. I just chilled in the bed, watched some TV, put my feet up, ate some food, had a nap. And then Sunday we went back to parks, which I don't know if I recommend necessarily. And then Monday, Tuesday was parks again, and it was totally fine. I was a bit sore on Monday, but overall, not that bad, to be honest. Like I was a little bit sore Monday. Tuesday, I was pretty much almost back to normal. Bonus tip, now that I just thought about it, is that I would totally do an Epsom salt bath every night. So book yourself a hotel that has a bathtub so that you can do an Epsom. And so I did an Epsom salt bath basically every night, not just race nights, but on, like the Wednesday, the Tuesday that we were there and doing parks and on our feet, every night before bed, I had an Epsom salt bath. I really like Dr. Teal's. I bought a travel one, but honestly, what I would do is, if you're traveling like me from Canada, is I just ordered some things from Target and had it delivered. You can also do that with Amazon. I just had some things delivered to the front desk, and including blister band-aids. So that's kind of how I approach my training to Dopey as well as race day. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop in the comments, and I hope this was helpful for you.